It is just another ordinary day at school, and suddenly the room around you starts shaking. Books fly off the shelves, and all you hear are the screams of students. As the building slowly collapses, some unfortunate students are trapped underneath the heavy rubble. As you run, you see a light fixture fall in front of you and you dive back, only to find yourself trapped. What will you do now?
Tectonic plate movement is caused by the molten rocks in the Earth's mantle moving around in a convection cell caused by the heat of the Earth's core. There are areas where the molten rocks rise from heat, and there are areas where the molten rocks cool and sink, thus forming a circular motion. This makes converging and diverging edges in the tectonic plates. Tectonic plates are not always moving smoothly. Sometimes they get stuck. More and more pressure builds up as new parts of plates continue to form at its diverging edges. This pressure will eventually be large enough to push the plates forward in a sudden thrust. The energy released from the sudden thrust of the tectonic plates giving way is what causes earthquakes. The hypocenter is the center where all the energy is released. Above the hypocenter, the epicenter is where the center of energy released is at the surface of the Earth. The energy released from the hypocenter creates two powerful waves that move through the Earth in every direction. The epicenter, being directly above the hypocenter, is the nearest point to the hypercenter, thus has the greatest impact from the two powerful waves. The two waves that travel through the Earth include P waves and S waves. The P wave, or the primary wave, is the quicker wave that arrives at the surface. It is a powerful wave that pushes outwards from the hypocenter. Since the P wave is a compression wave, it is able to pass through gases, liquids, and solids, as they are all affected by compression. The S wave, or the secondary wave, is slower and moves in a wavy motion from the hypocenter. This wave causes horizontal displacement of objects on the surface and inside Earth. Since the S wave moves in a wave-like motion, it is not able to pass through liquids or gases. This is because when liquids and gases are moved horizontally, they do not move back to their original position, thus does not pass on the energy of the S wave. Love waves and Rayleigh waves are surface waves. These waves are projected outwards on the surface from the epicenter. Love waves are similar to S waves, where they move in a wavy motion. This wavy motion on the surface can force the ground to be moved in a zigzag. Rayleigh waves are similar to waves in the ocean, where there is a rolling movement outwards from the epicenter. This wave is able to cause large waves, also known as tsunamis, if they are able to reach a large mass of water. Earthquakes most commonly occur near the converging edges of tectonic plates. From these two maps, we can see the map of Earth's tectonic plate boundaries, as well as areas where earthquakes have taken place. Earthquakes happen unpredictably. People used to think they were able to predict earthquakes, but in reality, they couldn't. This is because there were never any signs of an earthquake that is about to hit. There are also no seasonal constraints to earthquakes. They can happen at any time. The only constraint would be the location of an earthquake, since they tend to occur near converging tectonic plates.
The earthquake occurred at the Longmen-Shan Fault Zone between the eastern Tibetan Plateau and the Sichuan Basin. The epicenter was less than 60 miles from Chengdu, the capital of Sichuan province. During the earthquake, Tibet was pushed by the northward movement of the Indian subcontinent and squeezed out a part of itself towards the east. This caused a major thrust earthquake. The surface wave magnitude ranged from 8 to 7.9. It started at 2:28 p.m. China Standard Time on Monday, May 12th in Sichuan province, killing 69,000 people and left 18,000 missing. This earthquake was known as the Wenchuan earthquake as the earthquake's epicenter was located at the Wenchuan County, Sichuan. The epicenter itself was 80 kilometers west-northwest of Chengdu, the provincial capital, with a focal depth of 19 kilometers. The rupture itself lasted close to 120 seconds, with the majority of energy released in the first 80 seconds. The average speed of the rupture was 3.1 kilometers per second, 49 degrees towards northeast, and ruptured a total of about 300 km. Between 64 and 104 major aftershocks, ranging in magnitude from 4 to 6.1, were recorded within 72 hours of the main quake. Countries as far as Beijing and Shanghai felt the tremor, with many tall office buildings swaying from the tremor.
In 1976, China has operated a building code based on a seismic intensity scale between 1 to 12. Sichuan was considered a 7 on this scale, which was high enough to make the code mandatory for all new buildings. This code adds steel to structures to increase their ductility and allows the building to sway with the ground movement. However, any devastation to modern structures post-1976 stands as testament to the idea that these regulations were not adhered to in an appropriate manner, nor were they enforced by officials. To save money, builders often use inferior concrete and inadequate construction materials, ultimately leading to the devastation of many buildings that would have otherwise survived, including many schools. Due to the lack of knowledge and information in an LEDC, many were not prepared and ready. They did not know what to do, therefore the loss of life and injuries were much larger than they could have been.
How do you quantify and qualify impacts? It can disrupt normal life, affect
As you
a
can
large
see,
number
the
of people.
reports are true. The
There will
town
be
has
lost
been
to life,
destroyed.
livelihoods and property, loss of housing, disruption of transport and communication, as well as marketing
As we
systems,
trekked into Beichuan,
breakdown of social
the
order,
extent of the disaster
loss
became
of
apparent.
business and industrial output.
As we arrived at the remains
What impact do earthquakes have on the general function of a society?
Emergency
The
accommodation,
primary effects of
medicine
an
and
earthquake
food
is
being
property
rushed to
damage,
the disaster
fire
zone.
and tsunami waves, as well as loss of life.
130,000 troops have been sent.
The secondary
But the
effect of
scale
an
of the
earthquake is
has
disease,
stretched even the
economic
People's
loss,
Liberation
and lack
Army,
of food and clean
prompting the
water.
government to issue a rare
How do you measure the level of economic development and its role in being able to respond to the hazard event?
LA soldiers
As the
were
Sichuan
dispatched to
earthquake
the
occurred at
earthquake-ravaged region
2:28 p.m.
to
on
assist
12
the
May
rescue teams.
2008, at least
With the
87,500
worst-hit
people
areas
were killed,
being
45.5
inaccessible by
million
road,
affected, and
rescue teams
14.4 million
airdropped into the
displaced.
disaster zone.
Economic losses were estimated at 86 billion, with 21 million buildings damaged. According to a recent DFI report, the earthquake drove an estimated 10 million people below the poverty line, with the overall poverty in badly affected areas increasing from 11% to 35% of the population. Despite the extent of the disaster, this earthquake was not China's first experience with natural disasters. In fact, 4 of the 10 most destructive earthquakes on record have occurred in this country, giving China extensive experience in coping with such emergencies. Experience that was put to good use in response to the Sichuan earthquake.